So Keir Starmer's latest announcement pretty much solidifies the fact that Labour and the Tories are no different. Keir Starmer said on ITV that a Labour government wouldn't overturn the Tories' anti-protest legislation. Instead, he said the policy should bed in and that it was needed to curb some of the tactics of environmental activists, such as Just Stop Oil. But I'll allow you to watch the video for yourself.
Wouldn't a Labour government repeal the Public Order Act? I mean, if Labour... the whole history of Labour is a history of protest.
Well, I think there are two things going on here. On the one hand, I think most people say the police need powers to deal with Just Stop Oil and some of their tactics. They do need powers to deal with that. But on the other hand, there's a balance to be had, which is to protect free and peaceful protest. Operational decisions were made over the weekend. Some were right, some were wrong. The police themselves accepted that a number of them were wrong. That needs to be a learning experience. Legislation needs to bed down.
But you won't repeal the Act?
Well, I think we need to let it bed in. Yeah. We need to look at how it operates in practice. Very often with public order legislation, as you know, there's a period of bedding in. Just because the police have got a power, it doesn't mean they have to use it.
Just sit with that for a second. Now, these anti-protest bills, the aim is to silence dissent. Of course, the government has tried to make it sound reasonable, or it will only be used when there's major disruption. If you behave, if you're peaceful, you've got nothing to worry about. This is a lie, and especially what happened over the weekend, we know this is the case. People were arrested before they even began protesting. Some were arrested for handing out rape alarms in the evening that had nothing to do with the coronation. Yet the fact that Keir Starmer won't overturn the legislation as Prime Minister is insane. I've tried to make the point over the years that Keir Starmer isn't some soft left figure. It wasn't that, those of us on the left threw our toys at the pram because we were too pure. No, I've been trying to explain that this man is very right-wing, that he's a cop, that he's an authoritarian at heart. He's not your basic liberal, and all the FBP type centrist dads, well, you've had your wallets inspected. To those who still somehow defend Starmer, I don't know how you can. Frankly, it's cultist behaviour. We were told that those of us who supported Corbyn were in a cult, but his policies and him being a socialist was why we supported him. And for the most part, he stuck to the policies that he talked about when he ran for leader. Now, so much happened in these 4 years. There were 2 general elections. We left the EU, yet those policies still made it into the manifesto. There were no excuses. Starmer, on the other hand, has changed everything. And it's not just the 10 pledges that he's dropped, but everything about him and his character. He used to be a human rights lawyer. Now he can't even defend basic human rights. He was supposed to be some sort of liberal, yet he's conservative on both economic and, for the most part, on social issues too. But there are still those who continue to defend him. That's what a real cult is. Donald Trump supporters couldn't care less about the policies he supported. They just liked him as a man. This is no different than Starmerites. Now, these are what I call 4 stages of Starmer supporters. So, at the beginning, he's electable. He can implement left-wing policies. Then Starmer moves to the right. Oh, well, it's 4D chess. He'll pretend he's really right-wing, then pivot to the left when in power. Then Starmer drops the pledges. Oh, well, they weren't really pledges. They were just goals. And then Starmer just comes out and acts like a literal Tory. And then they say, well, actually, the policies were rubbish all along. But I'm looking forward to the so-called liberals come out against democracy and free speech in order to defend the man. I know many people in the past have said both the main parties are exactly the same. They said that during the Miliband years. And of course, that wasn't true. There were substantial differences. Now, I don't think there was enough of a difference. I think the Labour Party under Ed Miliband was still wedded to neoliberalism, but there were tangible policy differences. And I'm not being facetious here, but there is no difference under Keir Starmer. There were even substantial differences with Tony Blair. There were good policies that were implemented. But Starmer isn't some Blairite. He created a whole new right-wing space and fucking jumped into it. Labour can't even defend our basic rights. People scoffed at the idea that some on Twitter said that Starmer was to the right of Cameron, including me, by the way, but that somehow was the most insane political take. I'm sorry. What is an insane political take is the idea that just because someone wears a red rosette, they are automatically protected from right-wing politics. But I wonder if it goes beyond that. So many people can't pin down exactly who Keir Starmer is, and to be honest, I don't think he knows either. So when the bills came to Parliament, Starmer voted against them, which is the right thing to do. But now, arguably, he's in a better position than he was back then. With all the polling showing a Labour victory, he's U-turned on that. I genuinely think he is a pathological liar, with his political instincts always going to the right. Now, at this point, I wish he just U-turned, but pivot to the left, just this once. But that's obviously not going to happen. It's clear Labour won't change anything on policy. It's just vibes-based. I don't think Starmer is interested in changing anything as Prime Minister. I think he just wants to be Prime Minister. I think he just wants to be cordial, play by the rules, get respect from the establishment, but keep the policies the same. But this is what worries the hell out of me of the prospect of a Starmer Labour government. They will be more competent on the Tories, but it will be on things such as stopping the boats. There was no opposition to that policy, but the handling of it. And I think that's what we'll see, a better enforcement of the very right-wing policies the Tories have introduced. And I just say, why? What's the point of running for Prime Minister when you have no intention of changing things? It seems like a lot of effort and a lot of stress for nothing. I think Keir Starmer is a threat to democracy. He's pacified the Labour Party into a controlled opposition. People don't trust politicians. And when Labour ultimately disappoint, who is there to trust? The same cycle will repeat. The Tories will get back in, have a couple of decades of destroying things, then Capital Party B will take charge. Keir Starmer has got to go. And it's not about getting a left-wing leader in, but it's about having someone, anyone, willing to defend our basic rights when the Tories are hell-bent on destroying it. Of course, that's not going to happen. Labour will win, and the dark era of politics will continue.